welcome to Wright Brothers RC. Today I'm going to review the Pro Fly OV-10 Bronco distributed by Motion RC. It will be a combination build review and flight review. James at Motion RC has already done a comprehensive build, I think a 7-video or 8-video series. I'm not going to be covering the same things that he did. It's not going to be nearly as extensive. I'm going to cover some things that I did differently and some things that maybe he didn't cover. And then of course I'll be talking about the flight a little bit and my experience. So anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? So let's start out first by opening up the canopy and looking at the installation of the electronics. So on the shelf are the control electronics. You can see the Admiral 10-channel receiver next to the Hobby Eagle stabilizer. I haven't used the stabilizer yet. It's plugged in, but I've never turned it on. The small servo down below in the back is the cargo release servo. And let's see, speed control, one on each side, two 4S, 6,000 milliamp batteries. There's the 6-volt receiver pack, which also powers the navigation lights, landing light, etc. Those are the relays to control the lighting system. And of course the steering servo. One of the things I did do is change to a slightly more powerful servo and a longer servo arm. And the reason for the longer servo arms is not to have more throw, even though that is one of the things that does achieve. It's also to keep the cables here from pulling diagonally against the openings as they slide through, because they'll wear and create problems as you fly the aircraft. Just a matter of time, the friction cuts through the sides and it causes steering issues. So let's see, I think that's about it. Everything else is standard. You can see that the ESC cables are here, and when I put the wings on, that I just slip the cable through the side and clip them in right there. So it's pretty convenient. One of the things that I do for my own convenience on models like this is put the steering control on a separate output on the receiver. And what this allows me to do is to trim it separately from the rudder. So if I like my rudder trim and I decide I need to make some nose wheel trim, I don't have to do anything to screw up the rudder. I can adjust it separately. And with the pull-pull system, there can be occasions where, you know, maybe when the gear is up and the cable's loose, the cable can flop around, it can get hung on stuff, it can get twisted and not deploy right and that sort of thing. So one of the other things I do is the mix that allows the steering of that servo to be slave to the rudder is connected to the gear switch. So when the gear is down, it operates as it should, and when the gear is up, the servo remains steady, and that way there's no risk of getting any of your cables hung up or in an odd place or something like that during flight and running into a possible problem. So when the gear comes down again, then the servo is mixed in. Another difference in my installation from James' installation is that I've put my ESCs in the main compartment right next to the batteries. The Doesn't seem to be common knowledge, but it's not a good idea to extend the battery cables to your speed control. It's a better idea to extend the cables that go from the speed control output to the motor, and that's what I've done in this case. My cables came from, I stripped an extension cable, and it had the stranded copper inside, 3-conductor, and it's 14 gauge, and it also has silicone insulation. So super cheap and easy. You can grab some from the hardware store, or maybe you've got an extension cable around your house. But anyway, it has to do with the, I think the current spikes that you get when you lengthen the battery side, whereas the windings of the motor don't really care about any problems like that, and that's why you can get away with this lengthening the other side more safely, I guess. So it's not that lengthening the battering wires will kill your speed control right away, but it probably will over a period of time. There's information online if you want to study up on what you can and can't do. I know that James had I think a special cable made for his installation. I don't know if he used capacitors or measured the length of the cable regarding to what the speed control was rated for. I don't know. I don't think he provided any of that information in his build. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's something to consider. And truly, I think it adds some convenience, because this short piece of cable here is not a problem at all, obviously. I forgot to mention something about the receiver battery. The reason I use the 6-volt receiver battery is because it will supply all the current that I need all day long to operate the gear and the lights and the servos, and I don't ever have to worry about any kind of a brownout or power situation. It's probably the most reliable receiver power source, I think even more so than a BEC. You do not want to use the BEC output from the speed controls. They do not have the current available to operate everything combined, and a brownout would be very likely. While I normally have plenty of space to carry this in 3 pieces, I did assemble it with the consideration of possibly transporting it in 5 pieces. So I have cabled it in a way that every piece will come apart by itself and not create any kind of assembly issues at the field. My antennas are still just compression fit. I haven't glued them in. They stay in just fine. I've had no reason to take them out. I don't want to take them out if I don't have to, because then they'll become loose over time. I did change the antenna, the mast. I used a piece of braided cable from a control rod, and the great thing about it is that whatever it gets caught on, it's not gonna be a problem. It looks better. It looks like a whip antenna. The landing light is from a maglite, a mini maglite flashlight. The LED is not the same LED, of course. The pitot tube I constructed out of some brass and aluminum. It's as close I could get with what I've got. It actually slides into a brass fitting here, but when I painted it, it kind of sealed it up a little bit, and since I don't really have the need to take it out, I'm just letting the paint help hold it in, but it has a pressure fitting also. The tube is squeezed just a little bit so that when I slide the pitot tube in, that the pressure holds it in place. So one of the things that I really love about this aircraft is it has this huge cargo bay that's right on the CG basically, and you can load it up with all kinds of stuff and not affect the performance of your aircraft. So one of the things that I decided to do with this was to fit out the cargo bay so that I could drop some cargo, or maybe a paratrooper or two or something like that. There's my jump lights. Anyway, it's pretty close to what the scale aircraft looks like inside the cargo bay. And anyway, I'll show you how it works. So it's one servo operation, but I do have it rigged in so that it's not active until the gear comes up. So after you take off and you pull up the gear, the cargo ready or jump ready light comes on, and when you actually deploy the latch, or release I should say, the cargo light turns green and the parachute drops out, pulling out the cargo, and that's the way it works. And when you reset the latch, cargo light goes back to red, and when you land, jump light goes out completely. And that's it. That's the way it works. I haven't tested it yet because I haven't had enough weather to fly, but I'm working on it. We'll see what happens here pretty soon. Maybe Sunday. We'll see. So one of the things that I've done differently from the basic instructions is I've decided to bolt on my canopy so that I can get inside to the camera mount for the 360 camera mostly, but you know, to put all kinds of stuff inside there. But anyhow, this is the way that it typically bolts on here. And I just have them out on this side so you can see that it makes it easy to quick change the camera and whatnot. Let's talk about the flight characteristics of this aircraft. On my maiden flight, this is the first aircraft I've assembled that hasn't required trim after takeoff. This aircraft flew straight and true. I set it up per the manual as far as the control surface throws and the CG, and it flew just fine. I didn't notice any issues with this aircraft at all as far as the way it flies. Landings are a breeze. It settles in very easily, and you can rest it on the mains and keep the nose in the air for some nice scale landings. My procedure for disassembling the aircraft is to retract the gear, shut off the electronics, unplug the output of the speed controls, put the canopy back on, remove the wings, well, I should say, remove the elevator, then remove the wings, remove the booms if necessary, and throw everything in the truck. I hope this video has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. I'll see you at the field. Last one out, lock the gate.